Live in Western Oregon, this is NBC 16 News at 5:30.
The Springfield Police Department will pay $4.5 million in a lawsuit over a deadly shooting. Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Jacqueline Mazer. Stacey Kenny was killed last year, and besides the settlement amount, major reforms are on the way because of the lawsuit. There was a lot of focus on the culture within SPD. David Park, one of the lawyers representing the Kenny family, describes a toxic culture within the ranks. The settlement will require the Springfield Police Department to revamp their policies to include de-escalation training. Park says this will help point the department in the right direction.
A bittersweet resolution. Nothing is going to replace Stacey for the family. It represents hope and a step forward.
The new training will focus on how to use minimum force necessary, as well as more transparency and yearly training on de-escalation. Park also says the estate will use some of the money from the settlement to run an independent oversight group to monitor what's happening. Both parties have 60 days to finalize paperwork to make it official. Well, thousands of Americans, Oregonians included, have taken to the streets to protest the death of George Floyd at the hands of Minneapolis police. Protests also igniting ideas to defund the police. NBC 16's Tom Adams has been following both sides of the debate. He joins us live tonight with a special report on what police leaders and protest groups are talking about. Tom.
Well, Jacqueline, the Black Lives Matter movement has sparked a national and local conversation about the future of policing. But defunding the police is very much defined by who is doing the talking.
Loud demonstrations have filled the streets in Eugene and Springfield for nearly 2 months. Demonstrations for and against the police and the public safety structure as we know it.
The system has been in place for so long that the people don't really have control. It's all in the unions. It's all in the system.
It is as tough as I've seen it to be in this line of work. There's no question about that.
Defund the police? That definition depends on who's doing the defining.
Chief, what does defund the police mean to you? Or does it have any meaning?
Yeah. No, I mean, the concept of defunding the police, and what will be important is that we move away from defund or divesting as a tagline and move into a space that has some real solutions on the back end of that statement.
But for Black Unity Group organizer Martin Allens of Eugene, police reforms are not enough, he says, to fix the system.
We talk about the idea that in 99% of the cases that happen here in Eugene, they don't need a full SWAT team. They don't need even a member of the SWAT team to come out there.
Black Unity leaders are pushing for a long list of demands. That list includes removal of all military-grade equipment used by police, reallocating the $67 million Eugene police budget to crisis intervention agencies, and the group demands that Oregon require current police officers to relinquish their badges, then reapply for duty with the state.
When they reapply, we ask that each, new department that's in place publicly release, these police records.
Skinner maintains that total defunding of the police is not practical and will not work.
We're still going to have serious violent crime that we need to respond to, and so we need an adequate number of men and women that are going to respond to our child physical and sexual abuse, our domestic violence, our robberies, burglaries, our thefts.
There's defunding the police, but there's also reinvesting that into the proper channels in the community.
Allens says he's talking about reallocating funds to crisis intervention services like Cahoots of the Whitebird Agency and more medical and counseling service options for people of color. Chief Skinner says he is open to any thoughtful conversations toward focusing police resources in the right places.
That reduces the number of conflicts that we have with those individuals that are in crisis, and I think that can be a good thing for everyone.
On part 2 of our report, we'll talk to the chair of the Eugene Police Commission, where much of this community conversation will be taking place. And we'll also chat with State Senator James Manning, himself a former police officer, with some definite ideas on where this debate should be going. Jacqueline?
All right, Tom, thank you. Great report. Happy to hear we have both sides on this one. Well, moving ahead, Nicholas McGuffin, whose manslaughter conviction in Coos County was overturned, has filed a federal civil rights lawsuit. It was filed against police in the Coquille, Coos Bay, and Oregon State Police Departments and the Coos County Sheriff's Office. McGuffin served 9 years in prison for the death of his girlfriend, Leah Freeman of Coquille. A judge overturned the conviction last year due to findings of unknown male DNA evidence not disclosed during the trial. McGuffin's attorney claims officers fabricated evidence, coerced witnesses, spread rumors, and withheld evidence that would have cleared her client of the crime.
We need to hold our leaders accountable for what they did to Nick. That should be a focus, and it should be an open conversation going forward. How can we hold our leaders accountable, hold our police officers accountable, and make sure that this doesn't happen to other people in the future?
She says they expect this case will go to a jury trial and that she has full faith justice will be served. This year marked the 20th anniversary of Freeman's abduction and murder. McGuffin's attorney says they still consider this to be an open investigation and are looking for answers, with hope they can find out what happened to Leah Freeman. Well, the Douglas County Sheriff's Office is investigating a stabbing over a money dispute in the Green District yesterday night. Deputies say they found 3 people injured on Harmony Drive. One man, James Leland Nance of Idlewild Park, was struck over the head with a shovel and taken to a hospital, while the 2 other Roseburg men, Jack Sahlberg and Brandon Lee Welter, received only minor injuries. Ryan Mark Weber and Autumn Storm Smith were arrested on unrelated warrants. The investigation is ongoing. Anyone with information is asked to contact the Douglas County Sheriff's Office. Well, the Oregon Land Use Board of Appeals reversed a land use permit approved by the city of North Bend. The permit is for the proposed Jordan Cove liquefied natural gas export terminal. The Oregon Shores Conservation Coalition was the petitioner in the appeal. The decision by the North Bend City Council was to approve a temporary dredging material transport pipeline and dredging offloading facility. In the Land Use Board of Appeals' final opinion, they say most of the assignments of error can be remanded except for 2. According to the document, both of those assignments of error don't appear to be able to be remedied without significant changes to the application, which led to the state's reversal of the local government's decision. Firefighters are battling a fire near milepost 92 northbound on I-5 south of Canyonville. ODOT says the fire's on the east side of the I-5, about 1 mile north of the Canyon Creek Pass. Douglas Forest Protective Association says the fire has massed to 4 acres now. Crews and 4 helicopters are working to control the blaze. Drivers should expect delays. All right, time now to take a first look at weather. Alan Matthew joins us now. Now, Alan, you warned us we do need more groundwater. I mean, this is just an impact of not having enough rain.
Things are very dry. I mean, July is normally our driest month on record, but this month we haven't seen any rainfall at all. Take a look at what's going on right now. Eugene holding at 93 degrees and north wind at 9 miles per hour and our humidity at 31%. And we take a look at the last time that we have seen some rain. Eugene, just a trace of rain on July the 3rd. So that was 18 days ago, and that's all the moisture that we've gotten this month. Roseburg, a trace of precipitation on the 6th, so it's 15 days since they've seen some rainfall. And Coos Bay, that is 2/100ths of an inch, and that was 11 days ago. So again, not much rain so far in the month of July. We don't have much to show you on the radar satellite because things are clear right now. And if you are going to be heading out for the Neowise Comet, you want to take a look at that? Well, it looks like the 10 and 11 o'clock hours are going to be good for the viewing this evening. All your weather details coming up a little bit later on. Jacqueline?
All right, Alan, thank you. Well, taking a look at coronavirus numbers statewide now, the Oregon Health Authority reports 299 new confirmed and presumptive cases and 7 new deaths. The state has now seen more than 15,100 cases and unfortunately 269 deaths now. Well, Oregon's temporary ban on evictions lays out a 6-month grace period for those affected by COVID-19, but that grace period ends September 30th. Our Lauren Negretti joins us live in the studio to break down what renters and landlords need to know. Now, Lauren, regardless of financial status, renters still owe their landlords any unpaid portion of their rent.
That's right, Jacqueline. Under the current rules, a tenant would have to pay the non-payment balance on or before March 31st, 2021. This includes rent, utilities, and fees in the rental agreement between April and September.
Landlords cannot evict a tenant for non-payment, charge late fees, or report a tenant to a credit agency until October 1st. Tenants then have 6 months to pay back rent built up before October. However,
the tenant has to notify the landlord that they want to engage in that 6-month grace period.
Landlords can require notice and a response within 14 days, or risk a penalty charge of half a month's rent. Timothy Morris is with the Eugene Springfield Tenant Association, which helps tenants know their rights and opens conversation between renters and landlords. He says Eugene already had a housing problem, a low vacancy rate made worse by the coronavirus.
Over 51% of our calls are either late rent fees, or eviction return, which means to me that people are just scared about paying rent and not being able to do so.
Once October hits, a landlord can evict a tenant for not paying rent going forward, but not for deferred payment between April and September. A landlord will have to wait until April 1st, 2021 to evict a tenant for not paying rent during the eviction moratorium. Morris points to the Lane County Rental Assistance Program for help.
Beyond that, there are some organizations like the Springfield Eugene Tenant Association, like Shelter Care, like Catholic Community Services.
He warns to act fast as resources are limited during the pandemic.
The Springfield Eugene Tenant Association operates a hotline to help. Applications for rental assistance for Lane County renters closes Wednesday night. It's online at lanecounty.org/rent.
All right, thanks for that report, Lauren. Well, the University of Oregon is working to develop a test that would make it much easier to test for COVID-19. The university is developing a saliva test. A person would just simply have to spit in a tube in order to collect the sample. Most samples are currently collected via nasal swab. The university is seeking emergency authorization from the Food and Drug Administration to approve the test.
And in order to get that, we have to run through our system 30 known positives and 30 known negatives, and show through that process that we get the same results as the tests that we know are good.
The University of Oregon hopes to get approval from the FDA in the next few weeks. Now, once approved, researchers say they could conduct up to 5,000 tests per day. Well, all Lane Transit District buses will soon have clear barriers around drivers. It's going to be a phased approach over the next several weeks as transit services are already reduced. The barriers are funded through the Federal CARES Act.
Everything we're doing right now at LTD is to make those essential trips that our passengers need to take as healthy and as safe as possible in light of what's going on with the pandemic.
The barriers are just another added safety measure Lane Transit District has taken, including extra cleaning, distancing, and mask requirements.
So we believe that given those precautions, that the risk of riding public transportation in its current form is relatively low. It's not perfect, but neither is anything else that we do, but we try to make it as safe as possible.
Now, despite safety measures, LTD says ridership is down about 65%. The agency has had to cut dozens of jobs as revenue has dropped significantly. Well, coming up on your only local news at 5:30, new CDC analysis shows more people are infected with COVID-19 than what the numbers are showing. But researchers think the infection rate actually is.